Yo, what is good? What is going on, everyone, everywhere? We gonna go ahead and hop into this video, okay? You see what the title is, Celestial Might Based DPS is what we're finna focus on today. I'm gonna get you with the AOE loadout and the single target. Now, disclaimer, the AOE loadout does include a melee, okay? Melee range abilities, all right? That's how I like to normally run my AOE loadout. Now, if you want me to make a range loadout, let me know. But for the most part, at the state of the game, even with the, pretty common and basic gear that I have right here, you should be good going with a melee-based AOE loadout. Now, for single target, I do have a range loadout, so we're going to cover that later on in this video, okay? But as you kind of saw, I'm going to go over my weapon tactical mods. Well, all my tactical mods, but my weapon is where we're going to start at first. I like to run the rifle, do the weapon taps in between. I'm not going to show you the weapon taps damage implemented in when I run the loadout, but just know anything in the loadout will be slightly higher due to being weapon taps in between certain powers, okay? But I like to run Blast Dapper on there for a little bit extra damage when I am doing weapon taps. And then for my head mod, I like to run the Cursed Idol, just because for Celestial, it is incredible. It's one of my favorite supercharges in the game, just because of the way it works. If you don't know how it works, it actually, let me go to my loadout here. We can go ahead and read it. It's a cursed totem that damages nearby enemies that are knocked out while the idol's influenced explode and deal damage to other enemies. Now this pretty much has no limit, so long as there's like a lot of ads near the boss or a lot of ads near each other, just all grouped up around the tank. You pop this bad boy, before they die. Oh my goodness, it's so much damage. You catch up if you're down in the DPS competition. You stay ahead. You secure your lead if you're already ahead. It don't matter, man. This is gonna do damage, and it's just way more fun than using Neo Venom Boost. Now, Neo Venom Boost is your other viable supercharge, but we'll get to that here later, okay? The neck, of course, we're might based right now, so escalating might is what we're gonna go with. Now back, I normally would run Berserker, just because you actually do get in that low health range quite a bit, and the 10% extra damage is pretty nice, and you get there quite a bit. So, but I have Accelerated Blessing because I also heal. If you don't know, that's why I do all the healer powers. So Celestial, Electric, Water, Nature, Sorcery, okay? And I'm gonna go through each one of them this year, okay? And then Penetrating Strikes is what I have for this, just because it is the best chest mod for a DPS. It does more damage than Core Strength overall, so just go with Penetrating Strikes. It's good for you. Restorative, Wrath of the Presence. Normally most people say, hey, it doesn't matter about your leg socket, and on average it doesn't. But let's say you're using the amulet, you being able to heal by using this ability, and this ability that we actually use is this ability right here. It's very good, and it crits very high. Like you can hit over 100k on each one. Sometimes it hits like plague. It's ridiculous how hard it can hit actually. But we're going to do that, get a little more health back to us in all them different situations. For the hands, we got the max damage, okay? Pretty standard, pretty common that we use. Now, super speed or swift movement, but super speed with the dashing combos is going to be your bread and butter for pretty much every power in this game. If you want to be able to do the most damage possible, super speed is the movement for you, okay? Second most damage movement would probably be Acrobatics, just because that grapple on the single target attack. And then third would be Flight or Skimming. Either one, doesn't really matter. They're pretty much have the same abilities. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get onto this might. I have 136,126 might, okay? Now that is going to go up with the escalating might and neck mod, and of course if you pop any trinkets or any things like that, okay? But before I forget, The artifacts that we're going to run, at least for our AOE build, is going to be Transformation card, Strategist card, and the Grim, okay? Transformation staple, all DPS should be running this. Strategist, it does a hefty dot, about 30,000 when it crits nice. 30,000 plus, I would say, when it crits nice right now. And then Grim, we're mostly using it for the powder action, and secondary use is for just some extra pet damage. And the nice 5% might, 4% might, and 3 right there are always lovely to have as well. Now for allies, this used to be the old setup that I would run. Good thing, I guess we can go over this now. But Cyborg still does one of the most damage in the game. That's pretty easy to get. If you want me to go over which allies do the most damage, I would say I can make that video, or you can definitely look at Obsidian's chill video of the like the spreadsheet and whatnot. Basically, Harley Quinn is pretty much like the electric of the allies. I mean that by saying she doesn't split very much at all. So if you have a lot of enemies in one spot, it's like putting an orbital strike. You want to use Harley Quinn. Okay. Now just consistent, everybody saying like one group or one line, go ahead, hit Cyborg. It's going to be one of the highest damage in the game still. Single target is the House of Legends bot. It's going to do one of the highest damage in the game for single target wise. And then the Death Metal Batman is actually in the realm of competing with Harley Quinn. Okay, now if you can get Harley Quinn or Death Metal Batman to be your combat one, you're gonna do a lot of damage, pretty much, to say the least. But because I actually want to use him and his ability right here, the Cloak of Ensnare, okay, because you roll quite a bit, and at first I was like, you gotta roll to, do it and whatnot. But even in the content for the alert, you roll so many times, dodging all them spores. And even in the duo, you dodge quite a bit with all the little lava shoots and whatnot. It's a lot of rolling. You're gonna get this buff quite often. The buff is just nice, to say the least. So that's why we go with Cyborg as our damage one. Now, if you're trying to primarily focus on one enemy or the boss, for example, I would just recommend that you get the House of Legends bot. Both the House of Legends bot and Cyborg should be pretty much your bread and butter, and just use them interchangeably. When you want to use AOE, go Cyborg. More single target, use the House of Legends bot. Okay, on average. All right, now the Batman Who Laughs, of course, we're using the Luck of the Draw. That's pretty much not going away at all, just because the buffs are incredible and insane in what they do, and when they do get brought up in combat. And then, like I said earlier, this other support ability, the Cloak of Ensnare, it's ridiculous as well. Just the fact that you roll so many times, it's incredible. All right. You can get your might up, precision, and some damage mitigation as well. It's insane. So, on to the way we spec. Like I said, I use rifles. So I pretty much go down here to rifle mastery just so my weapon taps do an increased amount of damage. Now for super speed, because I have so many skill points, I'm able to, spec, get all the power and breakout, resistance masteries and whatnot. But if you don't have as many skill points, definitely get your Speed Force one or your Supersonic, whatever your ability is right here. Get that so you can at least go fast in this game. And then if you are super speed, definitely work your way down to Whirling Dervish. If you don't want the masteries and just get the power back right now, then go ahead and get you a Vortex Trap or get you Tornado Pool. Tornado Pool is a single target move that hits very hard, and Vortex Trap is just a weaker version of Whirling Dervish, pretty much. Okay, Speed Drain isn't as good as Pheromone Bloom in my opinion, just because it requires you to crit 90% of all the ticks that it does for you to be in the same realm that Pheromone Bloom does on average normally. And then Phase Dash is a good move to clip at this point. Now, for our iconic powers, we're actually going to go over here to get heat vision, because that's one of the moves that we're going to use for our single target. I know y'all probably haven't seen the heat vision build in a minute unless you're fire, but I always get super strength because of the weaponization and rating and the weaponization skill. It does affect your weapon damage, but not by a lot. It's not really noticeable from most people, maybe like 1 or 2 off, but a little bit is cool. And you always get to lift the cards on stuff in the game, so that's always cool. Like I said before, Neo Venom Boost is something that we're going to run, and Pheromone Bloom is something that can definitely be substituted in as a supercharger. You're trying to do a more Aya Gemini spam, or just constantly dish out more and more damage. And then Robot Sidekick is pretty much stable for all DPS anyways. Now for our stat points, we're of course going to go superpowered, because that's what we focus on right now, being might based. We're going to get our crits over here, max both of them out. And then normally you will max out your mind power right here because, well, I didn't, because I didn't respec after this whole update. And normally I try to push myself to get as much skill points to re-max it out. And I'm only 2 off, as you see right now. So, doing good there. But any skill points that you don't, any excess skill points that you have after maxing out your mind power, I would suggest doing a split in your precision and your health. Okay, health, especially if you got a buff troll and you run with the buff troll quite a bit, dump more into health. Precision, just to increase your weapon taps. Now on to loadout. Now y'all seen me test this loadout in a live stream before, and I did some more testing, look up some more YouTube videos, and did a lot of comparisons, a lot of averages, a lot of statistical data and whatnot, and this one still came out on top. Excuse me, it had the highest range potential in terms of how high it can get to within a parser, and it also had the most consistent damage across all the parsers, even on the low ends. So the rotation pretty much goes from left to right of the loadout. If you want to see the different combos, as you see with this one, it is tap melee, tap range, hold melee for the plague. And then for Blight, it's tap melee, hold range. For Wrath of the President, it is tap melee, hold melee. And then Whirling Dervish, all you gotta do is just let this hit for about 3 seconds. And then we're gonna tap melee to go ahead and use our dashing combos, foot, tactical mod, to get out of it and do a little bit more damage as well. And they're pretty much gonna rinse and repeat on through, okay? Now let me go ahead and show you what that looks like in terms of damage wise. We're just gonna go straight through them. Try not to mess up here, because earlier I was messing up. But you see our strategist card is doing some damage, and all them little heavenly clouds around everybody is our power interaction from our Grim. And you see we're hitting the 150s and whatnot. On average, I normally hit about 160, 160,000. Oh, there we go. And the highest is over 170,000. Okay, almost in the 180 mark. I really want to get to 200, but I feel like the best bet to get to 200 with is more than likely either gadgets or electricity for sure. We see we're around that 160 mark. We're dipping down a little bit, but we don't have that many that have the strategist card proccing, huh? So this time we're doing 150s. Interesting. But I don't want to make this video too long. Normally in my testing we did about in the 160 range, but it's all okay. Y'all already know normally in making a video my damage always lower. I even showed that on stream too. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our single target build. All right, now with single target, I will say most stuff stays the same. Ooh. But oh, excuse that, that's my dog in the back. Pretty much everything stays the same for the most part, okay? But the only real change is the artifacts, because we do use Solar Fire, so I took out the Grim for the Solar Fire. And I leave the strategist card on most occasions just because it has a higher damage range that it can get up to. Okay, and when I say that, I basically mean that instead of using the Grim, which will be the other one that we use, the Grim does more consistent damage. But if say you are critting more often, then definitely go with the strategist card, because that will give you more damage there. Because strategist card is basically more reliant on you critting with the strategist card, as well as your normal abilities. While the Grim pretty much just more plays off the powder action, you know, damage increase, and just your normal abilities being boosted up there with the extra added damage of another pet. Okay, so let me go over here and show y'all the rotation. Yet again, it is pretty much the same from left to right. And with this one, we don't have as many combos. We just have the normal plague, which once again is tap melee, tap range, hold melee, and then consume soul is the basically wicked or cursed side of the Wrath of Presence that we used earlier. So it would be tap melee, hold melee, then we're gonna hit our 35% in defile, and then we're going to heat vision, and then rinse and repeat. Now the reason why we do defile first and heat vision is because right now, after we hit plague, which gives a dot initially, then you hit a burst, then the dot continues on for a little bit. Consume soul also gives a dot. While both those dots are going, you're going to do a little bit of burst damage, and then you're going to go into heat vision, which gives you some burst damage, like channeling burst damage, of course. Then it gives a big burst at the end, and then it gives you more of a dot, which will allow you to combo, you know, do some more damage while you're comboing into your next plague and whatnot. Okay, it's a very well-oiled machine system, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it's the one that I found on stream and off stream testing to do the most damage consistently. Now sometimes it does not want to play nice with the number, especially when I'm recording yet again. So basically I will say you pretty much hit in the 80s as you see on average, and a lot of times you get to 90, and we can even get up to like 120,000 with this loadout here. 120,000 per second, mind you, when we test our parsers. Seeing it right now is over here dipping down. Oh, there we go. Strategist starting to crit a little bit, and then it goes back low. But see, you saw that crit, now it's back at 93. So it is a little bit more reliant, like I said, on the strategist critting for it to be more effective damage. 97 there. But so I don't make this video too long. That's pretty much it and all I have for the might-based DPS of it. Now, if you do have any more elite gear, I will say for your affinity mods, definitely put your might and might like I have here. And then the other two, C and D, would just be more DPS focused. I like to keep mine healer focused just because normally I would give the elite gear to my healer, and I keep like the normal OP items for my DPS, like the neck I have here, and I'm working on the back as you see. So at least my DPS can get the might right there. But that's all I got for this video right here. Go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Support the channel, you know what I mean, by doing those things and sharing the video out. If you like my content, let me know in the comments below. And also let me know what power I should do next, because after I put out all these videos, I will be switching to another healer power. Okay? But without further ado, y'all take it easy. Y'all take care. Peace and shalom.